Oh, Princey boy. You didn't think it was just going to be that, did you? Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now for those of you who might not have noticed, this holiday season we're doing something a little bit different with Dragon Ball and Whatifery. We are actually exploring whether the Dragon Ball world would actually experience Christmas. We've seen various types of fan art and official promotional art depicting the Dragon Ball characters wearing Christmas garbs, putting up decorations, so it just got Philly and I thinking, how would the characters really interact with Christmas in some way? Or what if a certain character didn't celebrate Christmas and was trying to ruin it for everyone else? I mean, honestly, all of the promotional art is meant to be celebrating Christmas marketing, but come on, this is just a little bit of fun. For now, we're going to be actually rolling with the idea that Christmas does indeed exist in the Dragon world. More specifically, we are going to be reliving the tales of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol through the eyes of a certain character. And if you watch the first part, you know exactly who that might be. That is indeed Prince Vegeta. The Prince of all Saiyans has taken on the role of Ebenezer Scrooge for this one. Now you might think that this is a pointless exercise because Vegeta is a Saiyan, and Saiyans don't celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Frieza Day, silly. But you know what? It actually depends on where you actually pinpoint this scenario in the Dragon Ball timeline. That might be true for the typical Saiyan warrior if you took them from planet Vegeta. But where we are in the story is a point when Vegeta's going through a state of flux and changing somewhat, even though he might not exactly know it. After future Trunks have come to warn about the androids, and we then have a 3-year time skip, there is a lot of things that could easily happen during that time which could make Vegeta reevaluate his thinking. And I think that this visitation from 3 spirits like in A Christmas Carol could be one of those things that might not change him instantly, but might set him down the road to redemption. He could begin his journey from being a cold and vicious mercenary back in the Saiyan saga to one of the more dependable fighters of the Z crew. The inclusion of this festive challenge could be the catalyst in some way. Besides, there's 3 years worth of non-explored content to be had here, so why not give this narrative thing a thought? So in the last part, we talked about ideas that brought Vegeta to this moment. Having spurned the notion of this festive season by not only destroying decorations at Capsule Corp, but also destroying Gohan's poor little snowman, Vegeta is then heading to bed, trying to forget anything had ever happened today and just get through this period and just forget about it. But it led to the ghost of Nappa arriving by his bedside and warning him that 3 Christmas-like spirits would come to visit him if he did not change his ways or at least reevaluate it. They would appear throughout the night, trying to get him to understand that he needs to change and embrace this Christmas holiday. At first, he was met with the apparition that resembled Lord Frieza, who reminded him that his past was a barren and pointless existence with nothing really to cling on to other than the thought of the constant being that was Nappa. And that poor fellow had been cast aside by Vegeta's own hand. Frieza hadn't taken that away from him, he had done so himself. You see, kids crave security and routine, and Nappa was the being that could give him both. Had Vegeta been alone, without any kind of adult connection to his past and planet Vegeta, I can imagine that Vegeta would have become a really unstable soul, with no connection to the Saiyan origins and the past and the tradition, someone to rule over. Without any kind of direction, Vegeta might have gone mad. Who knows how more twisted he would have become? Thinking that he's no longer dreaming, Vegeta then gets out of bed to head to the bathroom to give himself a cold shower, trying to get his thoughts away from all of this Christmas stuff. But halfway towards the door, he can sense that someone is in there. He is on guard, ready to jump any kind of intruder that might be in there. He sees the shower curtain twitch. He raises his hand and then yanks it away, taking it off the chains. It reveals another cloaked figure, cowering in fright, but this time, the figure is none other than present-day Bulma. What is she doing in the shower with this get-up on? The apparition not only looks like Bulma, but it also sounds like her. Not wishing to be immediately hostile with this figure who had in some kind of way indirectly given him shelter and some kind of place to stay and eat stuff, Vegeta just backs off a little bit and just says in his typical fashion, "Alright, what do you want?" He may not have raised his fist, but Vegeta isn't exactly all that courteous. He demands to know what it wants, or she wants, or whatever. However, this figure does not act like Bulma, because Bulma would normally raise her voice to this kind of tone, but this time, this figure isn't. Instead, the Bulma ghost calmly walks out of the shower and says nothing. This is actually unsettling Vegeta because even though he knows that this isn't Bulma, this Bulma may look as sound like it, is not acting, and then This is weird. The Bulma then grabs Vegeta by the shoulder, sending him whirling through a period and time warp of infinity, only to end up downstairs. Bit much, don't you think? It's the downstairs living quarters just now. Vegeta can recognize some bit of the carnage that he'd done earlier, but the decorations are back up again. And not only is it Bulma, Dr. Brief, Yamcha, and Puar, the rest of the gang are there too, helping out. They're putting up new decorations and working together as a team. Vegeta doesn't see the point of him seeing all of this. What are they trying to get at? Why? This is Christmas. This is what he was trying to destroy. These guys are just having fun and being all silly and... Clearly, Vegeta's trying to rail against the system here. Vegeta wants to know the reason why these idiots aren't ignoring his calls to forget about Christmas. However, the ghost Bulma keeps her hand on his shoulders and motions for him to keep watching. The mood isn't of resentment or anger about Vegeta's actions. They've forgotten about that. The mood instead is jovial, with everyone together and working together. This is a time of peace and joy and goodwill. Vegeta's impertinence and defiance had no effect on them at all. It's like some kind of kid having a tantrum and then nobody paying attention. So really, the kid doesn't get his way, in this case Vegeta. His anger was therefore meaningless, and the friendship that everyone else has keeps them strong, and they just have a good time. They're not gonna let the prince spoil this in the slightest, and this makes Vegeta feel kinda small. Usually when he does stuff like this, people take notice, people get angry, they get flustered, he makes an impact, but this time, nothing happened at all. Despite him being stronger than everyone else in the room, except Kakarot unfortunately, nobody really seems to care. They're just going about their business like Vegeta didn't exist. This is resistance in the emotional sense, and this is something that Vegeta doesn't get. But Vegeta this time is just getting flustered with his own fact that he's being ignored. He is swatting away at Ghost Bulma, trying to get her to go away. He's ignoring her calls, but remember, this is a ghost Vegeta. She's just kind of disappearing into some kind of ether and then reforming every time he tries to swat her. It's a fruitless exercise, so eventually he just goes... She repeats herself. She calls out Vegeta, saying that this type of existence and hostility, trying to cling on to the past, is just so unnecessary. He shouldn't be trying to live as a sole entity and actually work together as a unit for once. He doesn't have to be a lone wolf anymore. Frieza isn't there to torment him. He can be his own person. He can start anew. He can know himself as the Prince of all Saiyans. He managed to outlive Frieza. No one ever thought that was possible, but it is. Totally. He can actually have allies. Allies that he can depend on. But Vegeta then just swats this away, saying, oh, he had allies already. Why does he need more? He had Nappa and Raditz. Surely that's enough. That was like what the humans have, right? Well, no, Vegeta, not at all. Clearly, had there been no subjugation, and these three Saiyans were not under the tyranny of Lord Frieza, would they have actually socialized or coexisted in any way? I don't think so. The Saiyans had a major class system. Vegeta was a Saiyan elite, Nappa was a mid-class warrior, and Raditz, he was one of the low-class stuff. The only reason that they worked together was because they were under a force majeure, and that was Frieza. As a result of all that, Nappa was Vegeta's minder, and Raditz just somehow showed up. I would not exactly call that a harmonious union, would you? To add even more dissonance to this, Vegeta is then reminded again that, honestly, that Vegeta was the cause of these two constants being removed from his life. Nappa, he took out himself, and when Raditz's life was impacted, and in fact he actually left the mortal coil, did he do anything to try and help his friend and ally? No. They just laughed about it and decided to just take on the people that took him out. They only went to Earth because it was fun. What the Saiyans have is nothing like what the humans have. That is genuine friendship. What the Bulma Ghost is trying to say is that what the humans have is something that Vegeta can have as well. All he has to do is just embrace this new life and roll with it, or at least just tolerate it. If he wanted to have any hope of beating Kakarot, he needs to integrate himself with the gang and just get on with them. And if he's not careful, if he's beaten too much, Vegeta might just flee the planet, have some kind of lone wolf existence. I mean, basically, he'd just end up doing what he did before he wound up on Earth. Vegeta then spots Gohan putting up some decorations and then reading some books. He doesn't understand why this Saiyan hybrid is putting all of his time into studies and not just training. But the ghost points out that Gohan isn't like any other Saiyan. If Vegeta wishes for the Saiyan dynasty to live on, it has to adapt to its surroundings, and Gohan is the embodiment of that. He is the hope of the Saiyan race. And to Vegeta, this is the first bit of sense that the ghost has spoken about at all. Now, Vegeta sees Gohan in a different light. You see, he'd never really viewed Gohan before with anything other than disgust, but now he can see all of the potential inside this child. He hadn't realized what Gohan was capable of, but now he's beginning to see it. It's now becoming clear. Now, if you want to know where I'm going with this, because in Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta does clearly state that Gohan had the most potential out of anybody in the Z Fighters. So I think this is where that little crumb of information actually originates, or at least in my own little canon. The ghost then takes Vegeta back to his bathroom and turns away as if she was ready to leave. Vegeta then demands to know why this ghost took the face of Bulma specifically. Why exactly? Well, the ghost turns around with a very mischievous expression. Not only can you have allies and friends, but if you try hard enough, you could also have me. And without saying another word, the ghost disappears from view. Vegeta is left perplexed as to what just happened. Despite all the revelations that have fallen before him and all the information that had come his way, he's still not fully ready to listen to them entirely. He then resolves himself. He is still around, he still survives, and he can still have greatness. He doesn't have to change a single thing. Oh, but Vegeta, you haven't met the third apparition yet. Thinking that he'd won the battle and therefore the war about these stupid ghosts, he then goes back to bed, covers himself with the covers, and drifts off into another happy little sleep. He thinks that he's going to get the best night's sleep of his life. Oh, Vegeta, you're going to get the exact opposite. He wakes up to find himself suddenly unable to breathe. He's in a compact space. He cannot breathe. He cannot see. He can't really hear anything. It's all muffled. But outside, he can hear a muffled voice. He doesn't know whose it is exactly. It sounds old. But what's going on? Well, we're going to have to wait for the conclusion of that on Christmas Day to find out the identity of the ghost of Christmas future. Who do you guys think it is? Leave a comment below and we'll find out on December the 25th. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!